for me as a healthcare provider, when you're able to make an impact from a policy standpoint, that you've really, made bigger advances and really tried to move things forward for whatever that condition is.
And it helps, right? And I think you were talking a little bit earlier about how the pharmaceutical companies are starting to listen to the patients and the patient groups and acknowledge that back to them when they look at data. And I think that too is changing the patient relationship with the medicine and the pharmaceutical company. And I think will really help the pharmaceutical companies continue to make better and better drugs and improve treatment.
Well, that's why, I didn't even know that we were engaged with Twitter in that way. And I just think from the medical side that, again, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And I think that if our commercial marketing team is utilizing Twitter, right, and has this campaign, it would be great from a medical perspective to have those insights and really understand and know, what we term the voice of the patient,
right,
so that we can design a study to try to meet those gaps, because that's what you want to do, is to generate the data that will speak to that patient that's taking the medication.
I think what's interesting too is even to see, you have a lot of great, across the board at Biogen, patient testimonial videos, and people just assume online that people will not watch anything longer than 2 minutes. And we actually can accommodate up to 10 minutes. And I've seen Biogen videos that are 7 minutes long that people will watch from start to end, because maybe it's a mom talking about her children and their treatment. And if that's important to you, you're watching it.
Yes.
So even in terms of like what people are watching more, it would probably give you insights to understand what's resonating with people, like what
Absolutely.
makes them stick around to learn more.
Well, it can help with, how do we target our programs, patient programs,
Right.
because we're listening and gathering those insights.
Yeah.
And the other thing that struck me in our conversation was the use of Twitter to identify diagnosis, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, that's a new insight. So we're seeing doctors using Twitter. We have a lot of doctors on the platform because it's a very tech-forward, highly educated demographic in general. They're learning about it, often in medical school, how to promote themselves, how to be on there professionally, how to position yourself as a key opinion leader. So there are professional reasons why they're on the platform. But what we're noticing now is that they're anonymizing information and using it for diagnostic purposes. So I spoke to a urologist actually a couple of months ago who was talking just about that, which was, we have a doctor shortage in this country, and not every doctor can get to every conference, but everybody wants to stay up on the cutting edge treatment options. So doctors are putting information out there. Patient presents with XYZ, or with the photograph that doesn't have any identifiable information on it, obviously. And they're helping each other diagnose and treat situations collectively on an open platform. And it's just a really interesting trend that we're seeing emerge.
And I find that fascinating because I know, in MS, 40% of MS patients are still treated by general neurologists, and most of those are in rural areas. So I think about some of the things that we speak to patient advocacy groups are about how do we connect, how do we get that better care out to the rural areas? Mm-hmm. And I think this could be a potential way to be able to foster that dialogue between an MS center, a neurologist at an MS center, and that general neurologist. Because by the time that general neurologist sends the patient to the MS center, it's too late.
It's too late, yeah.
And so if we can make that connection earlier, then I think that's a meaningful way in how to really make an impact on the patient earlier.
Totally. And I think if those general neurologists knew that there was a resource for them, that they could tap into an MS specialist.
And I know they're afraid of losing the patient, but again, if it's that you're working together to care for this patient, that, it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, and if they're treating the patient better than they would have before,
Absolutely.
They're keeping the patient.
Yep. So I think it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And even if there's maybe potential pilot there to see how that might be able to work. So what would be good is connecting the patient with the physician, right? And because I think that there is a mismatch in what physicians think how patients are doing versus or what matters to patients, right? That I think there's a disconnect. And so I think if each other could see the dialogue that happens, that might be in another area that would be helpful for if physicians saw, right, the dialogue between MS patients.
The patients.
Yes.
I totally think that's really smart. We're seeing a little of it, but right now we're seeing that a little bit more in the medical device space. So Abbott Freestyle on Twitter has a lot of dialogue between doctors, patients, and Abbott. And so it's the first time we've really seen kind of all of those people kind of coming together, having a dialogue around one handle. So they're all talking to each other. It's really interesting. The doctors will interject with certain ideas or thoughts, and patients are talking too.
Interesting.
And Abbott is responding as well.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. I think the pharmaceutical companies are starting to realize that the thing that they are most afraid of, which is patients talking to them,
Yep.
is the most valuable thing for them, even though it's what they are most afraid of. And when I was at Google for many years, we would do YouTube channels, and the first thing that would come up would be, please turn off the comments. And we would turn off the comments. And at Twitter, we do allow for advertising without a profile and without the comments. But if you have a profile and you allow the comments,
It's so
and
much
you
richer.
talk back to people, it's so much richer, and we're seeing some brands do it really well, and it's changing adherence. Like people who maybe you lost them because they said, oh, hey, I'm having a problem with my copay. But now you're there to say, oh, you know what, we can help you with this.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I'm having trouble getting my medicine. And, often also in the MS space,
Here's the number you call.
yeah, they will take the sensitive things off to the call center. But and things that are pre-approved to respond to, they don't sound canned anymore, right? So they're like real, like they're actually kind of real responses. And where they were so afraid in the beginning, now they're soliciting information like, hey, community, tell us what you think. Like, hey, talk to us. Now they really want it. They're asking for it. And so that's really interesting to see. And I think we'll see more pharmaceutical brands have profiles and engage in that kind of dialogue, because I think from a adherence and perspective and just client retention of your patient, it goes a long way.
Well, I know while I'm on the medical side, we do have these like patient advocate programs where, we have patients speak about our products. But on the medical side, I'm not supposed to be able to speak to patients, but in this circumstance, I do when we bring them together to do like coaching of coaching them to be able to speak to other patients. And that's one of the most rewarding opportunities, like you said, that because they want to hear from us and the gratitude that they have. Like you said, they want to be able to share what difference our medications are making in their lives. And I can't tell you how many times, right, that people come up to me and say, if you made this product, that you've saved my wife's life, or you've saved my life. And it's just, it's very rewarding, right, as a healthcare professional. That's why I got into, healthcare, is to make a difference. And I know it sounds funny, but I feel like I'm really blessed to have MS, because I'm able to give and make an impact on, others' lives that I never dreamed I could do. And it's through those interactions with patients. So
That's amazing. And you're absolutely right. They really want to be heard.
Yes.
And we talked earlier about even just gathering data and then letting them know like how that data was used in terms of like if they're giving you feedback, like we heard you and here's how we're using this, and here's how your answers will help us like be better. And I think there is so much gratitude on the part of patients that pharma, right, for many years was on par in terms of public perception with tobacco companies, right? Well, what a shame that is, right? And actually, I think that Twitter did give them a platform to be like, hey, here's who we really are, and here's the good that we're doing in the world. But then I think, to your point, that patients do want to express, I'm grateful to you.
Absolutely.
Like, you did, this drug saved my life. It saved my child's life. It saved my father's life. And thank you. And they want to be heard.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think more companies will start to listen.
Well, I hope so.